Old lady out shit. Grandma! Say hey to the camera. Hey! Twerk, 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 twerk.
In the early hours of December 15th, 2024, Buckeye, Arizona, a small, quiet city that prides itself on its suburban charm, became the center of a shocking tragedy when a grandma would kill her daughter moments after discovering her success secret. The 911 call came in frantic, but nothing could have prepared the dispatcher for what they were about to hear. Just seconds after picking up the line, the dispatcher was met with heated scuffles, raised voices, and then the unmistakable sound of a gunshot. When police arrived at the scene, they were met with a chilling sight: the lifeless body of a woman in the hallway, just outside the bedroom door, a gunshot wound to her back. But the shock didn't end there. Sitting eerily close to the body, holding the murder weapon in her hand, was the woman's own grandmother. What could have pushed this family, once known for its love and unity, to the edge of such violence? What secret had been uncovered that drove a grandmother to commit the unthinkable? This is the life and death of Larkia Elliott.
Put a finger down, Psycho Edition. If you put more than 5 fingers down, you're a psychopath. Put a finger down if you start crying when you get angry. Put a finger down if you can tell who someone is by the sound of their footsteps. Put a finger down if you like to eat ice cubes. Put a finger down if you're a Virgo, Pisces, Aries, or Gemini. Put a finger down if you can taste different kinds of water. Put a finger down if you would laugh if a little kid fell and dropped their ice cream. Put a finger down if you plan out conversations line by line before they happen. Put a finger down if you are a quiet kid. Put a finger down if you get annoyed when someone breathes too loudly. Put a finger down if you have multiple personalities for different people.
Born in 1993 in Detroit, Michigan, 31-year-old Larkia's family moved to Arizona when she was just a child. She grew up surrounded by the strong personalities of the women who raised her, her mother, Tanisha, and her grandmother, Deborah. From the outside, the family appeared to be just like any other in suburban Buckeye. But beneath the surface, their household was marked by a complex mix of love, expectation, and sometimes tension. Kia's energy was magnetic. Her personality was unfiltered, full of life, and often unapologetically bold. This vibrant spirit was evident not only in her day-to-day life, but also in her work as a content creator. Known online as Kia, she built a following of over 20,000 subscribers on TikTok, where her posts were a blend of humor, self-love, and the intricacies of Black womanhood. Through her social media presence, Kia resonated with many who admired her authenticity, her willingness to speak openly about her life, and her passion for self-improvement. Her social media content explored various aspects of life, from mental health to relationships, trauma, and healing. She made it clear that her goal was not only to entertain, but to empower others, especially young Black women who were navigating similar struggles. Kia's content was a mix of raw, unapologetic moments where she would share personal stories of growth and lighthearted comedic moments where she would make her followers laugh and feel connected to her journey.
It's always been people on this planet.
Here we have another lost brother that doesn't know self, that he's a true God and creator of life. We have people who are really thinking that the anarchy, that's how you will really get pronounce it, created life. Which, no. Africa is the origin of all life. Black people are the origin of all life. We created life. We've shown you knowledge. We've shown you everything about the cosmos. And we show you how to bathe yourself, which today you still don't know how to bathe yourself. You wash up with your hands and don't even use soap. But let me tell you about yourself. So when they say fallen angel, we all fallen from higher conscious once we reach our higher self knowledge, down to the vessel to be reborn to experience life through a different viewpoint. You come through the vessel as a different body. So you and reborn again. Reborn again. Energy doesn't die. It just reforms into something new.
But Kia wasn't just an influencer. She wore many hats. She worked as a caregiver, preschool teacher, mental health counselor, and even a correctional officer at the Arizona Department of Corrections, Rehabilitation, and Reentry. Between October 2019 and August 2020, she worked at Lewis State Prison, where colleagues remembered her for her calm demeanor under pressure and her dedication to her work. While she maintained a steady job, her heart was always with content creation. She dreamed of transitioning into full-time social media work, hoping to use her platform to bring joy, healing, and inspiration to others. Kia's life seemed to be gaining momentum. She was close to reaching the point where she could fully dedicate herself to her growing brand. But behind closed doors, her family life was far from the perfect picture they often presented online. Kia's family dynamics played a significant role in the events that would later unfold. She lived with her mother, Tanisha, and her grandmother, Deborah, creating a household made up of 3 generations of women. Each woman in the house had her own history, experiences, and expectations. And while love was certainly present, it didn't always make things easy. Deborah, now 71 years old, carried the weight of family traditions, illness, and her role as the matriarch of the family. She had lived a life marked by strength, but also by personal challenges. Tanisha, Kia's mother, worked tirelessly to keep the household running smoothly. She managed the family finances, cared for Kia's younger siblings, and served as the primary caregiver for her aging mother. While Tanisha and Kia often clashed over certain issues, they still maintained a bond, although it was often strained. The tensions in the household were compounded by Deborah's strong presence, and Kia, fiercely independent, found herself struggling to carve out her own space. Her ambitions to build a career online and leave a mark in the world were often in direct contrast to the traditional views held by her mother and grandmother. They wanted what was best for her, but their perspectives on life, success, and independence didn't always align with Kia's modern, fast-paced digital world. Living together, 3 generations of women in one home was bound to create friction. And although they had their moments of support, there were also frequent misunderstandings and emotional strains. Friends close to Kia described the environment as hot and cold, at times supportive, other times suffocating. Behind the scenes, Kia struggled with the weight of those generational expectations while trying to navigate her own path forward. That was until a tragedy occurred. December 15, 2024 started like any other day in the Elliott household. Kia and Tanisha, as mother and daughter often do, got into a heated argument, the exact reason for which remains unknown. It could have been about anything: finances, words left unsaid, or the mounting pressures of living together under one roof. But what started as a verbal confrontation escalated quickly, becoming physical. Deborah reportedly attempted to separate the two, but emotions were running high, and things spiraled out of control. At some point, she tried dialing 911 during the fight. Kia, in a fit of rage, reportedly entered her grandmother Deborah's room, attempting to grab the phone from her grandmother. A struggle ensued, with Kia allegedly striking Deborah in the head and shoulder. In that moment of chaos, Tanisha rushed in, desperate to separate them. But the situation would escalate quicker than they all imagined. Tanisha found herself in a frantic struggle. With emotions running high, she grabbed her daughter Kia by the hair, pulling her away in a desperate attempt to stop the fight. What followed was a violent tug-of-war, mother and daughter locked in a fierce struggle. each pulling and fighting, the tension in the room unbearable. The battle between Tanisha and Kia quickly spiraled out of control. They tumbled to the floor at the foot of the bed, their violent altercation making the air heavy with fear and anger. The noise and struggle echoed through the room, and it was clear that the situation had gone beyond the point of no return. In that moment, Deborah, feeling trapped and overwhelmed by the escalating violence between her daughter and granddaughter, made a fateful decision. She reached for a 9mm handgun, a weapon she had access to in her home, and fired a single shot. The bullet struck Kia in the back. She collapsed in the hallway, just outside the bedroom door, and died shortly after. Deborah, still holding the phone and the weapon, was left in shock. The 911 dispatcher on the other end of the line had heard the initial chaos, the yelling and the struggle. But what followed was chilling. The phone line went silent, followed by a loud gunshot. The responding officers arrived within minutes, and as they entered the home, they saw broken glass around the back door. They forced their way inside, concerned about the silence that followed the gunshot. They found Kia unresponsive. Despite efforts to save her, she was pronounced dead at the scene. Deborah was found sitting calmly nearby, with the weapon used in the killing at her side. What could have pushed this Deborah, a woman who had been a loving grandmother and matriarch, to take such a drastic and irreversible step? Authorities quickly began piecing together the events leading up to the fatal moment. Deborah was taken into police custody for questioning. She immediately admitted to shooting her granddaughter, but she would explain something chilling. According to Deborah, the altercation between her daughter Tanisha and granddaughter Kia had escalated to a point where she feared for safety. Deborah claimed that Kia entered her room during the argument, tried to take the phone from her grandmother, and struck her in the head and shoulder. In that moment of panic and confusion, Deborah reached for the firearm she kept in her bedroom. She told police that she fired the gun, feeling that the situation was spiraling out of control and that she had no other choice to protect herself. However, something else made her statement even more disturbing. Deborah admitted that she didn't believe her granddaughter was intending to kill or seriously harm Tanisha. This admission raised a critical question. If Deborah didn't perceive Larkia as an immediate threat, why did she resort to using lethal force? The chilling reality of the situation began to take shape. Deborah, in her own words, acknowledged that the shooting was an intentional act, yet she didn't feel her daughter's life was in imminent danger. The death of Larkia Elliott shocked not only her family, but the entire community in Buckeye, Arizona. What started as a heated family argument turned into an unimaginable tragedy that left everyone grappling with the question, how could this happen in a family known for its close-knit ties? As police began their investigation into the events that took place, the focus shifted. The focus shifted to the surviving members of the family, Deborah, Larkia's 71-year-old grandmother, and Tanisha, her 50-year-old mother.
When the Buckeye Police Department arrived at the scene, they were met with a chaotic and heartbreaking sight. The first responders quickly moved to assess the situation. They found Alikia lying near the bedroom doorway with a single gunshot wound to her back. While officers were performing their duties, they detained Tanisha, Alikia's mother, who had emerged from the house visibly shaken and with her hands raised. She was escorted out without incident and later questioned by the authorities. Deborah, however, remained inside the home. When officers located her, she was sitting calmly in another room, with a 9mm handgun found nearby. Deborah did not resist arrest. Instead, she was compliant, though emotionally numb to the situation that had just unfolded.
Grandmother, her granddaughter tonight.
This happened at a home near Baseline and Miller Roads, and Fox 10's Nicole Christine is live with the very latest for us tonight. Nicole, what happened?
Yeah, good evening, Brian and Ashley. This is a complex situation according to Buckeye Police. Evidence still being collected and information still to come from them. They say that this all started this afternoon, just after 4 o'clock, with a shooting call to 911. And during that call, they could hear yelling in the background. They said that once they got to the scene here in this neighborhood in Buckeye, they ordered everyone inside the home to come out. They said a woman in her 50s did come out of the home. She was detained without incident, but she was the only one to come out of the home. So once they went inside to search for others, they did find a woman in her 30s, unresponsive, suffering a gunshot wound. She had been shot at least once. Exactly how many times is still part of the investigation. First responders did try to save her, but sadly she did on scene. Police also found a woman in her 70s inside the home with a handgun near her. They believe at this point that that was the preliminary evidence indicating this is a domestic violence incident involving a grandmother, mother, and a granddaughter who all lived in this home. At this point, no other people are believed to have lived there except for these three. Buckeye police say this is the first homicide of the year with city police, and it's been a hard day for everyone.
Situations like this are very emotional for the families involved, for the community members, the neighbors nearby, and the officers, especially those first responders that tonight who tried to save this woman's life and unfortunately were unsuccessful.
And again, there is going to be more details that will be released at a later time. The grandmother was taken into custody today, though, and this will be an ongoing investigation. Speaking of ongoing, you see the police tape behind me. This is a residential neighborhood, and Buckeye police are just asking people in this area to be patient with them as they continue to investigate and collect evidence. No information on the identities has been released at this time. That will come at a later date as well.
Deborah's calm demeanor struck investigators as unusual for the severity of the situation. As they began to collect statements, they quickly realized that Deborah had called 911 during the altercation, but had not immediately communicated the violence that had escalated between her daughter and granddaughter. The details of the 911 call would play a crucial role in the investigation. The first 911 call came in around 4:13 p.m. that afternoon. The dispatcher heard the familiar sounds of a domestic dispute, raised voices, angry shouting, the sounds of a fight breaking out. But then, as the dispatcher tried to gather more information, the lines suddenly went dead. The dispatcher, concerned, immediately tried to call back but received no response. Moments later, the unmistakable sound of a gunshot rang out, creating a chilling break in the conversation. Investigators realized that the family dynamics played a significant role in what transpired. Kia's life, which appeared to be on the upswing with her growing social media following, was actually filled with underlying tensions. Her relationship with her mother, Tanisha, was reportedly complicated. While they had moments of love and support, there were many underlying issues, power struggles, unspoken resentments, and generational differences. Kia's growing independence and desire to carve out her own future in the digital world often clashed with the more traditional values held by her mother and grandmother. These tensions, combined with the pressures of living together under one roof, likely contributed to the explosive argument that day. The question that remained, however, was whether the shooting was an act of self-defense or a momentary lapse in judgment brought on by escalating emotions. Investigators also began looking into whether there were any previous reports of domestic violence within the family. While there had been no prior police calls to the residence, the emotional and psychological tension in the home was undeniable. There were no reports of violent incidents in the past, but family members described the relationship between Deborah and Kia as complex. This family, once tight-knit, was now at the center of a heartbreaking tragedy. Less than 48 hours after the shooting, Deborah Green Davis was formally charged with second-degree murder. At her court appearance, Deborah sat quietly in a wheelchair, her demeanor calm despite the weight of the accusations. A judge set her bond at $500,000, and Deborah was placed in jail to await further proceedings. The Maricopa County Attorney's Office moved swiftly, reviewing the evidence and presenting their case against Deborah. Prosecutors emphasized that although the incident occurred during a domestic dispute, Deborah's decision to use lethal force was not justified. They pointed out that Deborah had admitted she did not believe her granddaughter was a threat to her daughter's life. The case took on a deeper dimension as the question of whether this was an act of self-defense or a momentary lapse in judgment brought on by escalating emotions became central to the investigation. As the legal process continued, the fallout from the shooting reverberated through the community. The idea that a grandmother had killed her granddaughter left many in disbelief. Some neighbors described the family as a close-knit, loving group, and many were shocked by the violence that had unfolded behind closed doors. The incident cast a dark shadow over what was once a quiet suburban neighborhood. Outside the courtroom, the emotional fallout from the tragedy was just beginning. Kia's friends and followers, who had known her through her TikTok content, were left devastated by her death. She had shared so much of her life online, her struggles, her joys, and her aspirations, and now her followers were left with a void. Kia wasn't just another influencer, she was a voice for many, offering a glimpse into her personal journey of growth and healing. Her family, too, was left grappling with the loss. Tanisha, her mother, had to cope not only with the loss of her daughter, but also with the fact that her mother had been responsible for Kia's death. The complexity of their grief was compounded by the public nature of the tragedy. Questions swirled about what went wrong, whether this violence could have been avoided, and how a family could recover from such a devastating event. The investigation into Larkia Elliott's death continues to unfold, with many questions still unanswered. Why did Deborah resort to lethal force in a situation that, according to her own admission, did not involve an immediate threat? Was this an isolated incident of domestic violence, or were there deeper, unaddressed issues that contributed to this tragic event?
Arrested on allegations of in the second degree.
Deborah Green Davis made her first appearance in court today. The 72-year-old grandmother is accused of shooting and killing her own granddaughter, 31-year-old Larkia Elliott.
This situation is incredibly emotional for the family involved. It's incredibly emotional for the community, the neighbors here tonight, and it's very emotional for the first responders who did everything they could to try to save this young woman's life tonight.
Newly released court documents reveal that Green Davis called 911 when her daughter and granddaughter were fighting. That's when detectives say Elliott, the granddaughter, came into the room and tried taking the phone away by punching Green Davis. Elliott and her mom started physically fighting again, and Green Davis reportedly pulled out a gun and shot her granddaughter in the back. She died at the scene.
Domestic violence, unfortunately, is prevalent.
Rachel Katacha is the chief program leader with Chrysalis, a Valley nonprofit that helps survivors of domestic violence. Data shows Arizona has the 5th highest rate of domestic violence in the country, and unfortunately, it doesn't slow down this time of year.
During the holiday time, we always see an uptick in domestic violence cases and just altercations within families. It's a hard time being around family and the different dynamics that the holidays can bring up for people.
Gatecha wants people to know that resources and support are available to victims of domestic violence.
No abuse is ever okay, even if it is normal maybe in your family circles or your friend circles, and that you always deserve to be free from abuse and free from violence.
And if you are a victim of domestic violence or know someone in an unsafe situation, you can always call the 24/7 hotline right there on the bottom of the screen. We also have some more resources and support listed on our website, azfamily.com. Reporting in Buckeye, Emma Lockhart for Arizona's Family.
As the legal proceedings move forward, the story of Larkia's life, filled with creativity, purpose, and resilience, remains etched in the hearts of those who knew her. The aftermath of the shooting will continue to ripple through the family, the community, and those who followed her online. The full consequences of this tragedy have yet to unfold, but one thing is clear. The pain and grief left behind by this act of violence will be felt for years to come. Kia's funeral, held on January 3, 2025 in Detroit, Michigan, was a private affair. Her family chose to keep most of the details out of the public eye, focusing instead on remembering her for the impact she had on their lives and the lives of those who knew her through her work. The funeral served as a quiet reminder of the love and pain that coexisted within Kia's life, a life filled with potential and promise, but ultimately tragically cut short. As the case against Deborah Green Davis moves forward, the legal questions continue to mount. Could Deborah's actions be considered manslaughter rather than murder? Did she truly feel her life was in danger, or was the shooting the result of a momentary lapse in judgment brought on by escalating emotions? These are questions that the courts will have to answer as the investigation progresses. For the family, however, the questions are more personal. How does a family recover from such a devastating loss, especially when it's a member of the family who caused the tragedy? Tanisha, Kia's mother, now faces the unimaginable, the loss of her daughter and the reality that her own mother is responsible for its death. The emotional toll on Tanisha is impossible to measure, and for her the grief is compounded by the guilt and confusion surrounding the events that led to the shooting. Community members, too, are left to grapple with the harsh reality of domestic violence within families. This case serves as a painful reminder that no one is immune to the pressures and emotional turbulence that can arise within even the most seemingly stable households. The breakdown in communication, the hidden struggles, and the explosive outbursts that resulted in Kia's death highlight the fragile nature of family relationships under stress. The case also raises questions about the availability of firearms in emotionally charged situations. Deborah's decision to reach for a firearm during a heated argument illustrates how easily violence can escalate when guns are present. The presence of a gun in the household, coupled with the emotional volatility of the situation, turned a family dispute into a deadly tragedy. Our deepest condolences go out to all those affected by this heartbreaking event. No family should have to endure such a devastating loss, and our thoughts are with them during this incredibly difficult time. May they find strength and healing in the days ahead. What do you think about it? Let us know in the comments below. And if you found this story intriguing, please like, share, and don't forget to subscribe for more stories like this.